Vicki, of course, I have been working as a journalist in Dallas in what has been 2 or 3 golden ages of journalism, beginning with Newsroom on Channel 13. Certainly the last of the Times Herald years were wonderful. Now at KERA doing CEO. But I have to say these have been very good years for journalism. So I think that the serious challenges lie ahead. Now, of course, when the Times Herald folded, that naturally was very painful for all of us. However, through the kindness of Rena Peterson and Carolyn Barta, I started doing columns for the Dallas Morning News, and the kindness of Yolette Garcia started doing a news program with her at KERA. So that worked out, though it was very, very sad to lose a newspaper. It always is. But I think the great challenges lie ahead. I hope that the future of journalism will involve finding a way to do news gathering and make money at it. We have plenty of opinion. We're awash in opinion, and incidentally, I've done opinion journalism. There's nothing more fun than to vent your rage every morning. But news gathering is going to get lost if we're not careful. I think we have neither accuracy nor ethics. I'm sorry to say, and one is linked to the other. I mean, one principal ethical tenet of journalism is to be accurate. Another is to be fair. And notice I didn't say fair and balanced. I said fair. There's a difference. Balance can be artificial and sometimes silly. I mean, for an example, Osama bin Laden is a terrible man. Oh no, Osama bin Laden is a wonderful man. That's balance. It's absurd. Fairness is not absurd. But this lack of interest in facts is leading to a corruption of the ethical standards of journalism.
Pleasure for me to be here, and it's a great pleasure, I think, for all of us tonight to be able to honor some distinguished Dallas-Fort Worth journalists. Living legends, they all are. Many living legends in the room tonight. We'll be able to introduce all of them. First of all, how many past presidents of the press club do we have? Just raise your hands. Past presidents of the press club or currently presidents. Thank you, David. Some others? I thought maybe Bert Shipp would be here. I haven't seen Bert. Well, it's a great pleasure. All right, that's great. It's a great pleasure to have all of you here. It really is. The press club has had some good times and some bad times, and I think right now it's on the rebound, and it's wonderful to see support. We also have, this is a tough crowd. I'm going to turn this on so I can see. Well, I guess I won't. We also have a number of past living legends, folks who were elected the first couple of times that we had this event. I'm going to read off their names and tell you who they are. I hope they're all here. Can you folks hear me? I'm worried about the acoustics. Can you all hear me okay? Is it bouncing? Okay, all right. Well, there's nothing I can do, but what a great hall. Carolyn Barta, one of our living legends with us tonight. Longtime journalist, wonderful journalist for the Dallas Morning News. Carolyn now with SMU. Love Carolyn Barta. If you can, or raise your hand if you can't. We'd like to see our living legends, our former living legends, if you will stand, and we'll give you a round of applause. She's arguing with me because she's saying they're not former, they're still alive. She's right, of course, but I didn't want our current inductees to stand up. Go have another glass of wine. Everything will be fine. And shout. Tonight we have 10 very distinguished journalists who will be honoring. And what we will do is I'll introduce you, and then we'll have you come up here and say words if you want to. That would be very nice. If you don't feel like it or you're shy, we understand that as well. These are all, for the most part, household names. Well, whether you're fixing a running toilet or you're running to fix something else around your house, it's Super Handyman Al Carroll, who is the first name you think of when it comes to do-it-yourself work. He's been dispensing advice on do-it-yourself home repairs in his sort of one-of-a-kind sense of humor for almost 50 years now. He was one of the folks who helped pioneer talk radio in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. In the Dallas-Fort Worth area. He's guest starred on a number of variety television shows from coast to coast, including Good Morning America, The Today Show, and many, many more. Al was the national spokesman for several companies, including the Home Depot, for many years. And he and his wife, Jean, even hosted their own syndicated TV program for several years. Excuse me. And his Super Handyman newspaper column, syndicated by King Features, is still being published today. All along, Al has said, "My advice is free and it's worth every penny," but his loyal followers consider it, of course, priceless. A living legend indeed, Al Carroll. Al?
At my age, it's a pleasure to be anywhere. I walk around like I'm a cripple, but I really aren't. I have a disease called Parkinson's. I never heard of it before, but now I've got it. So it's fun. I had never done any work with commercials until I got into SMU. And I got ready to leave SMU, and I found out there was a movie that was running currently. The star of the movie was Clark Gable, and it was about advertising. I figured if it's good enough for Clark Gable, it's good enough for me. He got involved with a lot of different women, and I didn't. I swear I didn't, but Jean thinks that I probably did, but she doesn't know, really. I did my first commercial for Home Depot out of a mistake. The mistake was I was supposed to show up at a certain time. I got there early, and the guy who was setting up the microphone and all that sort of good stuff asked me to say a few words on the microphone to test it out. And I did that, and it sounded pretty good to him. Didn't sound that good to me, but anyway, I went ahead and did that. And about the time I finished, somebody from the Home Depot came in and asked who I was and what I was doing, and said, would I like to be a spokesman for Home Depot? Would I like to be a spokesman for Home Depot? That was one of the greatest things that could happen to me. I was glad to have that opportunity, and they didn't pay me very much money, but they did pay me a lot of stock to buy. And if you're familiar with the stock market, you probably know that Home Depot is really always going up, up, up. And I'm sticking with it as long as I can. I may not sound like I have everything under control, but I do. I have thoroughly enjoyed being on the radio. I enjoyed doing talk shows. I enjoyed the people that I met at remote broadcasts. It was a great thing to do. Something happened to me that I didn't deserve, and that was getting an award like tonight. I really do appreciate it. It's great to see all you people. I can't see you very well because I can't see very well. But at any rate, thank you so much for having me here. I love you all.
Living legend. Another living legend, Lee Cullum. Lee contributes columns to the Dallas Morning News, and she gives commentaries that we've all seen for KERA. She's also a host of CEO, a series of interviews with business leaders. She's done regular commentary for the NewsHour with Jim Lara and National Public Radio's All Things Considered. She was editor of the editorial page of the Dallas Times-Herald. She also edited D Magazine, which during her tenure won a National Magazine Award. She's appeared on national TV shows here and in Europe and has conducted seminars on journalism in Central and Eastern Europe. She's moderated panels for the World Economic Forum. Cullum worked as a reporter, a moderator, and executive producer on Newsroom on KERA. She developed several productions for broadcast on PBS, including a profile of Lillian Hellman that was nominated for an Emmy Award. Her accomplishments go on and on. Too many, perhaps, for us to name here. She remains very active on a number of boards for organizations dedicated to journalism and to international relations. Lee Cullum attended Sweetbriar College. She graduated from Southern Methodist University. She has one son, Cullum Clark, and 3 granddaughters. Lee Cullum, a living legend.
Thank you very much, Tracy. It's so nice to be working with you again. He and I have been together many times on many occasions. We were remembering the Republican convention in Kansas City when Ford was barely nominated. We were remembering election night on Channel 11, 2000, when we didn't know whether to go off the air or not. It was 3 or 4 in the morning and nobody had won. You all remember that night too. But I want to look back to the London of George Bernard Shaw. This was the early years of the 20th century. And there was a dinner one night, and the speaker got up to give his remarks after dessert. And he said, "I only have 10 minutes to tell you all I know." "Well," said Shaw, "you must speak very slowly." I know there are a lot of people here who know more about journalism than I do, especially journalism online. But I do know that we face, I think, a great future in journalism if we can figure out a way to do news gathering online and not just news opinion. Of course, I've done opinion for a long time. There's nothing more fun than to get up every morning and to vent your rage. But it also is useful to have some facts. Maybe some of you heard the saying, it was told to me when I moved over to the Times-Herald and was so happy to do that, to the editorial page. Someone said, the Dallas Morning News knows but doesn't tell, and the Times-Herald tells but doesn't know. Now, I don't think that's true. Will Jarrett doesn't agree with that. I'm sure that Jim Henderson, Lana Henderson don't agree. Bob Porter, if he were here, and I do miss him, wouldn't agree either. I think the truth is that the Times-Herald told things that were not supposed to be known, and that's why we were in trouble some of the time. It reminds me of the old days on Newsroom on Channel 13 when things were said that were never supposed to be said in this community. I must say that I've been very lucky to be associated with both newspapers, the Times-Herald and then the Dallas News, due to the kindness of Rena Peterson and Carolyn Barta, who was a fabulous editor, and I've enjoyed contributing now to Kevin Willey and Sharon Grigsby. But those were golden ages of television. and of journalism and of newspapers here in this city. And I must say I'm very honored to be included in such a distinguished group and very proud to be a part of this communications community. I think all of us, all of you, have known from the very beginning that Marshall McLuhan was wrong when he said all those years ago that the medium is the message. That's absurd. The message is the message. The medium is merely a tool. So whatever the medium, grateful thanks to all of you tonight. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Lee Cullum. Thank you very much, Lee. We did have some fun. I know a couple of stories, too, from that 76 convention that I probably can't share. We were all shuttled over to Kansas City, Kansas, and that brought up all sorts of difficulties just traveling back and forth, but it was fun. Jimmy Darnell, a living legend. James Jimmy Darnell began at WBAP TV, now KXAS, in January of 1961. He retired nearly 4 decades later in May of 2000. He shot video for nearly every major news story from the 1960s to the 1990s. Among those stories, the Kennedy assassination, the 76 Republican National Convention, the Cullen Davis murder trials, and the Branch Davidian standoff. But this North Texas graduate could work both ends of the camera. On November 22nd, 63, Jimmy was in the motorcade when John F. Kennedy was assassinated. He immediately began conducting witness interviews to try to attempt at least to pull some order out of all of that chaos in downtown Dallas. NBC carried his eyewitness accounts nationally as part of their continuing coverage, fed live from WBAP TV. But of course, that wasn't the only story that Jimmy Darnell covered as both photographer and reporter. He lived across the street from Channel 5 within easy reach of the desk, so he was also regularly called on to cover breaking news, everything from weather to fires, robberies, you name it. This award-winning journalist set the bar pretty high. He's regarded as one of the truly good guys in Texas broadcast news. He's a modest man. He's a wonderful living legend. Ladies and gentlemen, Jimmy Darnell.
Did y'all see that? I got up. Okay, let's see. I think Tracy. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, I think Tracy introduced me, but anyhow, my name is Jimmy Darnell, and oh me. Okay. Well, one other. My memory is so bad. The other day, I told my wife. I said, Barbara, my memory is not what it used to be. And she says, I know, my name's Ruth. Well, anyhow, it was great seeing all you folks here, and I would love to see you again later on. And I enjoyed my 39 and a half years at Channel 5. I replaced Bert Shipp there, and he's not going to think this is funny, but the day I went to work there and replaced Bert Shipp, Channel 5's ratings skyrocketed. And let's see. Well, anyhow, thank you so much for your consideration.
Thank you, Jimmy. Appreciate you.
Sure. Thank you.
This next person is a dear friend of mine. Of course, it gives me great pleasure to share any kind of a microphone with Troy Duncan. I'll tell you a couple of small stories. I won't get into all of them because I probably couldn't even with this crowd. In fact, Troy and I do a little thing that's called Things We Couldn't Tell You on TV. And there were a lot of those things that took place. We had one evening, remember the old the restaurant Fuzzi's? It was SFUZZI. I can tell that story. And so Troy and I would refer to it, of course, pronouncing the S, and we would call it Sfoozies. And Troy one day, in I thought most arrogant way, we were combing our hair, doing one thing and another, getting ready for the broadcast, and Troy came in and he says, we don't pronounce the S. The restaurant is called Foozie's. The S is silent. And I turned and in my most arrogant way said, I'll continue to pronounce it Foozie's if you don't effing mind. And we turned together and walked right into the middle of a troop of Girl Scouts. Troy's a native Texan. He was born in Ennis, he grew up in Hillsboro, so he's really a neighborhood kind of guy. He graduated from Baylor University, he went into TV news in Waco, Bryan College Station, and then Orlando, Florida. Troy says the pivotal point in his career was in Orlando when the program director came up to him and said, hey kid, we need somebody to do some weather for us, can you give it a try? That was in 1962, and it led then to a 45-year television career in weather, with stops in Houston, Philadelphia, Detroit, and finally 31 years at WFAA-TV Channel 8. That, of course, is where Troy and I connected and became immediate and lifetime friends. He's surely one of the brightest and the wittiest guys I know. He's a broadcaster, and believe me, that's really a good thing. Troy retired from TV weather in 2007. He said he wanted to stop before somebody told him to stop. But he not only racked up a huge following by his dedication to his craft, but I seriously doubt that there's an award out there for weather people that Troy hasn't won. Since retiring, he's enjoyed being a commercial spokesman for a number of products and institutions, and we're together again on Mondays and Tuesdays on the Texas Daily on KTXD Channel 47. Troy is a man of great faith. He loves his family, he loves his community, and I'm proud to say he's my good friend. Ladies and gentlemen, living legend Troy Duncan. Say a couple of words.
Follow me. You concept. Theater around. We were able to get a sound system from Yankee Stadium that Lou Gehrig used. I'm the luckiest man I've ever been. I don't think I've been from the earth. Consequently, I'm going to try this. Now, I have two ideas of the way to do this tonight. I'm going to do both of them. The first one is... I can't hear you! If you don't mind, I work alone. I'd like to thank the little people that made this possible. Yes, my mother did. They had great hearts. They got me a good education. They didn't have much, but they took care of me. I love them. They've been gone for many years, but they gave me the foundation I needed, and I've been blessed with some success. The third little people is here tonight. My bride of 40 years, Janet. My heart and soul, and thank you. I love you. Thank you for being here tonight. We can barely find here apart. Now that's one way I was going to do this. The other was to quote the great Hugh Lampton. Anybody remember Hugh Lampton? He said, kid, in this business, three things that work for success. Humility, sincerity, and honesty. And once you learn to think those three things, you will be a success. You know what? I've always tried to be honest, and I try to be professional, but humility I've learned too. There was one point in my career where I did not get my contractor's review. That will teach you humility. You know what? The Bible says pride doesn't fall. If you once learn humility, the rest of it comes naturally. I'll finish by saying, what a guy that I knew that he said, I was at the Westminster Kennel Show, And he said, well, something's wrong. He looks up, there's a mutt dog on the little and it's mutt. This mutt dog is thinking to himself, boy, I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know what's wrong. But boy, am I in good company. Thank you, God bless.
Also, one other small thing. John Good Johnson won this thing the first year. Now, John and Troy and I are like the three amigos. We try to get together with our families at least once a month, and we give each other high fives for being retired, but also for having worked through the business during the period of time that we were in it. But John, a couple of years ago, became a living legend through the press club, and last year I was so honored. John would not let either Troy, neither of us could forget that he was the first living legend. And he'd write out an email and he'd put it at the bottom. Instead of writing John, he'd just say TLL. So we discovered that that meant the living legend. When I won the thing, he said, no, you can't put that in. You've got to put TLL Jr. So he's allowed Troy now to be able to sign his emails TLL 3. So it's nice to have the three amigos all together again. Good Johnson is such a tyrant. This is one of my favorites too. Dottie Griffith, a living legend. During her 34-year newspaper career at the Dallas Morning News, Dottie Griffith covered more beats on the Metro desk, including politics. Before then, she switched to food coverage with the observation more people eat than vote. Dottie's the author of 8 cookbooks. She hosted the Cooking with Dottie show on KRLD radio. She made regular appearances on WFAA TV. Her culinary journalism includes writing for publications such as Modern Luxury Dallas and Houston magazines, plus public relations consulting and product spokeswoman. Dottie's also worked in nonprofit management and communications, media relations, and marketing. She was public education director for the American Civil Liberties Union of Texas. She worked as interim marketing director for the Dallas Arboretum. She was recently named executive director of the Greater Dallas Restaurant Association, which brought her back to Dallas from Austin. We're pleased with that. Dottie Griffith is a past president of the Association of Food Journalists, and it must be said she's also a former board member of the Press Club of Dallas. She received her Bachelor of Journalism degree from the University of Texas, her Master of Liberal Arts from Southern Methodist University, and we're very proud to present living legend, Dottie Griffith. Dottie.
Well, okay. No one has ever accused me of being bubbly, but I've just been crazy since Dave Dunnigan called me and said, you're a living legend. I mean, I'm just like a little kid with a gold star. Thank you very, very much. This just means so much to me. So glad to be back in Dallas. Thank you, Tracy, for kind of recounting my various journalism career. But I have to say, the best thing I ever did was have my wonderful children, Kelly Stevenson and Caitlin Stevenson. Kelly can't be here tonight, but Caitlin is here. And I could not have raised 2 wonderful children without the help of Tom Stevenson, their dad, and Sally Stevenson, their co-mom. So please, all of you stand up, wave. I honor you. This wonderful evening sort of makes me sad that my children took my advice about being writers. They both went to law school. They're both practicing attorneys, and but you can be a writer anytime you want because you're really good at it. The other thing I have to say is the one thing, my career path, as you can tell, has been sort of varied, but being a good reporter makes you able to do anything because you are an instant expert as a really good reporter. You brief the case, you understand it, and you know what questions to ask, and then you can parse the information. So being a really good reporter sets you up to be able to be an executive director, whatever. Thank you very much, Dallas Press Club. This has been a great honor.
We really do have a very distinguished group coming in tonight. I'd have to say that last year's group was the finest, but this year's group is, I was in last year's group. Yeah, okay. Jim Henderson. Jim is a living legend with a heck of a history in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Jim began his career in Oklahoma, including some 10 years in the Tulsa World before then migrating to the Dallas Times-Herald for 15 years as columnist, a national correspondent, and investigative reporter. When that paper died, Jim spent 6 years writing books and freelancing to magazines and 1 year as staff writer for the Texas Business Magazine before signing on as Dallas correspondent for the Houston Chronicle. Among his many awards are the George Polk Award from Long Island University, the Paul Tabenkin Award from Columbia University, the Thomas Stokes Award from Washington Journalism Center, and the National Headliner Award. He received a Nieman Fellowship to Harvard in 1975, and he was inducted into the Oklahoma Journalism Hall of Fame in the year 2000. Jim has authored or co-wrote 4 books, including Bullock, which is a biography of the late Lieutenant Governor, the most powerful politician in Texas in the last half of the 20th century. He's also a great guy. I've enjoyed talking to him tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, another of our distinguished 2013 living legends, Jim Henderson. Jim.
I'm having some trouble with my vocal cords, so I'm going to be really brief. I did want to let all of you know why this is a very special evening for me, as Dottie expressed. And I'm glad that Al Carroll brought up the subject of age. I didn't want to be the one to introduce that into this conversation. But when David called to inform me of this event, my first thought was, wow, living legend, cool. But then my next thought was, my God, am I that old already? But then the full age impact seeped in when David said, this is an event open to the public, invite all your Facebook friends. What the hell is Facebook? I didn't want to embarrass myself by asking him, so I just told him, I will not have an entourage because all of my friends are dead or in rehab, and my social life is pretty much confined to funerals and doctor visits. So you might understand why this is special. I mean, imagine social event with no pallbearers or proctologists. I'm thrilled to be here, and I thank all of you for being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim, very much. In 1970, Lana Henderson said goodbye to her hometown of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, to fulfill her dream of landing a job at a big city newspaper. She left behind her entire family and her position as the women's editor of the Pine Bluff Commercial. Arriving in Dallas, Lana immediately went to the Times-Herald, where she interviewed with living legend Vivian Castleberry, and was hired then in 1971 as a reporter and an editor in the Times-Herald's Living section. In 1972, she was named Most Promising Female Journalist by Women in Communication, and then went on to win a lengthy string of state and national awards for writing and for editing. Lana left the Times-Herald in 1976 to start a successful freelance writing business with her husband, award-winning author Bill Sloan. Today, Lana is finishing a doctorate in educational administration from A&M Commerce. She served 22 years as a teacher and curriculum developer in the Dallas Independent School District, receiving 4 Teacher of the Year awards. She also started her own company, Wordsmiths Publishing and Educational Consultants, which produces test preparation books for K-12 students. An educator and a journalist. Living legend, Lana Henderson. Lana.
It's nice to be remembered, and this is really a thrilling honor for me. All that noise from the back is coming from my current people that I work with at an online university, online college, American College of Education, and our president had my entourage, as Jim Henderson said, come tonight to cheer me on, so that's where all that noise is coming from. Thank you, Ace. I appreciate it. As I said, I appreciate this award. It's nice to be honored. It's nice to have your peers remember you and to feel that you accomplished something special. The thing that I want to say about this award is that awards like this, to me, they cause you to reflect on who you are and how you got there. And when you look back on who you are and how you got to where you are, you have to think about the people who helped you get there. And I want to tell a story about when I applied for the job at the Dallas Times-Herald. As Tracy said, I had come from Pine Bluff, Arkansas. I had 1 semester of college in secretarial science. That was my major. In Pine Bluff, that was the job to have, so that was the one I wanted. And then I had to stop because I ran out of money. And on the way home, my last day of college, I had the Pine Bluff commercial in my car, and when I got home, I opened it up, and there was an ad in there, and it said, "Copy editor wanted. Some college and good command of the English language." I said, that is me. I have to get this job. And finally, after many phone calls, I got that job on New Year's Day, probably because they couldn't find anyone else to get it. But I did get the job. So I worked there for quite a while, and then I decided that I wanted to come to Dallas and get a job, and I went to the Dallas Times-Herald. And before I went, I read a book about how to get a job that you want. And in this book it said, when you go to the personnel director and he tells you that there's no job openings, insist on seeing someone. So I was not that brave back then, but I did go to the personnel director, and when he told me there were no job openings, I did insist on seeing someone. And so, after much conversation, he picked up the phone and he dialed Vivian Castleberry's number. And he said to her, "Vivian, I have a girl here from Arkansas." Now, she's not an ordinary girl from Arkansas. And so Vivian, bless her heart, I'm sure she was very busy that day, took time from her schedule to talk to me. At the time, she couldn't hire me, but she promised that she would hire me as soon as she had an opening, and sure enough, she did. Had it not been for her and that personnel director, I would not have met the living legend in my life, Bill Sloan. I would not have had 3 careers, which I've had. I would not still be living in Dallas. My life would be completely different. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to not only thank you for this award, but to honor Vivian Castleberry, who is truly a living legend and a woman that I admire and love deeply because of all that she has meant to me in my life. Thank you so much, Press Club.
What nice people. Thank you very much, Lena. Now, this one's also a treat. I mean, we have one treat right after another tonight, and another of all of our favorite people, I think, we could share in saying that this is one of our favorite persons. Susie Humphreys, living legend. Now, I've got to say this correctly because I've worked with Susie and known Susie a long time. She'll get up and leave this room if I don't say it the right way. She will march. She walked already on this new program that she's involved with. I'll let her talk a little bit more about that. But her background is as varied as her various audiences. From administrative secretary to television talk show host to 20 years in radio, Susie has been honored so many times. She's hobnobbed with movie stars and politicians. She's interviewed some of the greatest among us, and the near great too, as she likes to say. She's made hundreds of commercials, done musical comedy and motion pictures. I remember once going over to Fort Worth to see her production of Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. She said it was typecasting. It was her word. She has been fired. She has been broke. She's been disappointed. She's been petrified as an expectant mother at 40 years old. I don't know, is your son, I think he's 67. Is he with us tonight? He might be. I'm not quite sure he could make it. But she has lived her life with a passion for learning not only how to be better, but how to do things differently. In 2002, Susie received the Council of Peers Award of Excellence and was inducted into the Speakers Hall of Fame. In 2004, Susie was inducted into the Texas Radio Hall of Fame. On a personal note, Susie Humphreys loudly and proudly proclaims, "I am a breast cancer survivor," and that's something really to be proud about. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend and your friend, one of the true living legends among us, the beautiful, the wonderful Susie Humphreys.
And I totally am not prepared to speak because I just thought we came in and had the wine and one piece of cheese and then went home without that. You had 2 pieces. So I'm not prepared, so I'm going to speak from my heart. In the early 70s, I interviewed the great actress Lillian Gish, and she wrote a book called D.W. Griffith and Me. And she was in the first motion picture, Birth of a Nation. In the dedication, it said, "To my mother who taught me to love, to my sister who taught me to laugh, and to my father, who taught me the wisdom of insecurity, and to D.W. Griffith, who taught me it was more fun to work than to play. When I read that back in the early 70s, I thought, that is absolutely the life I want. And by the grace of God, and lucky being at the, I have been through so many back doors. I'm not a legitimate journalist. There's nothing legitimate about it. Except when I married my husband, he said, well, finally, you've gotten married long enough to be legitimate. So I always came in the back door. And I came in the back door at Channel 8. I was called a personality. They didn't say I was a journalist. You know, they gave me a weather board and they had me do the weather, and I did it my way, which is, why are you watching me? If you want to know what it's like outside, just go outside. And then, having been fired from television, I end up with the master of radio, Ron Chapman. And so my on people who were so great at their job, who did it 24 hours a day, who didn't grumble or complain, but just did it because they loved it. And that's the gift that this town and this profession has given me. Always, always getting to do what I love to do, and always wondering, how did I get here? How did I get here? So thank you, my friends. You've made me legit. And the man who made me legit, and has stuck with me for 36 or 36, 30, how many jobs? 30.
I know him, that's Jim, isn't it?
This is my husband, Tom Mayo. Josh Mayo, and our daughter-in-law, Dawn, and our grandson, Kate Thomas Mayo.
I was talking to John Good Johnson a little bit earlier, and I think both of us were in agreement that we are really pleased that the folks from the Dallas Times-Herald are being recognized here tonight. They needed to be. The Times-Herald was a wonderful newspaper in its day, and it finally was able to shake, I think, a lot of the dust off the Dallas Morning News back in the early 70s, so that the Morning News stepped up to the plate and began competing with the Times-Herald. One of the key people in all of that group is our next living legends, Will Jarrett. Will Jarrett is perhaps best known to us as the former managing editor and later the executive editor of the Dallas Times-Herald. You can add in duty as magazine editor for the Miami Herald, managing editor of the Philadelphia Inquirer, and executive editor of the Denver Post. After his days at the Times-Herald, he became the founder and co-owner of Westward Communications. That's a three-state company that owned mostly small daily and weekly newspapers, a press relations newswire, and 3 commercial printing plants. He sold that firm and retired in 1997 and now spends a considerable amount of time at Preston Trails Golf Club, and who can blame him? The newspapers that Will directed won lots of state and national awards, including 2 Pulitzers. Professionally, he's been involved with the American Newspaper Publishers Association and the American Society of Newspaper Editors. Will Jarrett is an Odessa native. He attended Texas Tech, where he's been named a distinguished alumnus. He's been married almost 50 years. He has 2 children and 6 grandchildren, and we are very proud tonight to present to you living legend, Will Jarrett. Will.
Well, to tell you the truth, I had been around the track quite a bit in places like Miami and Philadelphia, and I got a call, and they were playing on my Texas loyalties, said, why don't you come down to Texas and help us stir up a storm and change the way they're doing business down there. And I came down in 1975, and I was thrilled. And I appreciate what you've said, but the truth is, the Times Herald staff, many of whom are here, were the people who made this happen. There were no sacred cows at the Dallas Times Herald. And they went out and they got the story every time. And that's why I'm up here tonight, because they were on the job 24 hours a day. They were better than the news staff at the Miami Herald. They were better than the news staff at the Philadelphia Inquirer, and they were better than the news staff at the Denver Post. And I'm really thrilled to see them here tonight because they made it happen. And I want to say that, in all candor, that the news staff and the newspaper deserved more consideration than the overlords in LA gave us. We could have been still going and still competing if they had invested as much time and energy and blood and sweat as that newsroom did. On the other hand, I'd like to say to Bob Mong and the Dallas Morning News, I read it every day, I look at it, and I really like it. Congratulations to them. And along the way, Burl Osborne and I became very good friends. Thank you very much.
What a group. Bob Porter, a living legend. Bob Porter was born and raised a fourth-generation native of Mesquite, Texas. He received his master's degree from the University of North Texas. He spent 35 years as a journalist, first at KRLD as a floor director, then as a roving regional critic at the Denton Record Chronicle, and finally he spent nearly 30 years at the Dallas Times Herald as film and theater critic, as a columnist and a profiler. During those years, Bob was also a stringer for The Hollywood Reporter, co-founded the USA Film Festival, and interviewed thousands of personalities in glamorous watering holes, he tells us, traveling the world to exotic film sets. It was a tough job, but Bob is a tough guy. Bob completed his career with 9 years at the sixth floor as Director of Public Programs and co-founder with Wes Wise of the Oral History Project at the Sixth Floor Museum. And by the way, it was there that he was accidentally shot by a former Dallas police officer while conducting an interview. Bob often said he wrote some pretty scathing reviews in his time, but no one had shot him till he went to the museum. He's loved by his friends, admired by fellow journalists and colleagues. Our final living legend tonight, Bob Porter. Bob.
On behalf of my father, I'd like to thank you for honoring him in this way. I know that he's humbled for being thought of as a living legend and pleased that his peers still think of him in that way. In fact, I believe his exact words were, "Are you sure they got the right Bob Porter?" I often think back to my childhood and how fortunate I was to grow up the way that I did, going to movies, theaters, and musicals. To me, it was always a way of life, and it never seemed abnormal. I have my father to thank for that. He made sure that I always stayed grounded and that none of the extras ever went to my head, but that I always appreciated all that I had. He also made it seem so effortless, like sitting down and writing was as natural to him as drawing a breath. The words just seem to pour out of him onto the pages. I'm sure that his natural style and grace are some of the reasons that you have honored him here tonight. Thank you on his behalf and on my family's behalf. I know that he sends his best wishes to his colleagues and friends in the media.
Well, I think it's been a splendid night, and I know that a lot of you want to stick around and party for a while longer and socialize with your friends. It's always a great event, and it's always wonderful to see everybody turn out. Now, for some closing remarks and perhaps looking a little bit toward the future, David Denigan, Press Club.
Well, one of my duties this evening as chairman of this event was to introduce Tracy Rowlett. It's on Wikipedia, so go there. Tracy, the consummate professional that he is, when I said we're going to start the program at 7, he was here. I was in the back, so he got an early start. First of all, I want to thank you all for coming. This is a great event, just tremendous. And just a very brief history. Vivian Castleberry's name was brought up this evening. Well, 3 years ago, I was standing in a funeral line behind Vivian, and we started visiting quite a bit, and I realized that there was not anything to recognize the contributions that people like Vivian had given to this community. So that's where Living Legends got started, and it's been a growing success, and we're delighted to have so many great people. So I want to invite all of the Living Legends, previous as well as new, who are here, if you will come and join us up here. Liz is going to give us a benediction to everyone else, but we want to get pictures of the entire classes of the Living Legends. Thank you again so much, and I know Liz wants to thank you as well, and then please do come up so that we can get photographs from all of you. Thank you.
I have often referred to this event as Old Home Week because it is so much fun to see the people that you've worked with all these years and the ones you've lost track of and the ones whose name you no longer remember, but you remember their faces. And it's great for the Press Club not only to have survived, but to continue to honor the people who have gone before. So I would encourage any of you, first, to join the Press Club. We need your support. And secondly, look for your mail or your email next year and join us again when we'll have a new class of folks who have led the world of journalism in Dallas for these many years. Thank you so much for being here, and would all the prior and current winners come up and let's get a picture. Thanks for being here.